we're going to call to order our June 9th at 5:31. We're calling to order, what is our meeting? I'm sorry. Pension Board meeting. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Clerk, roll call.
Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Lott,
Here.
Commissioner Watts excused absent, Vice Mayor McCutcheon,
Present.
and Mayor Williams is absent.
All right, thank you. All right, being that we do not have the meeting minutes from March 10th, we're going to forego that item and move to item 4, ratification of our invoice payments. All right, for our fire, general, and police plans. Okay. Item 4, yes, item 4. All right, so we see those amounts here. Are we ready to make a motion?
Madam Vice Mayor, I make a motion to approve the invoice payments since March of 2026 in the total of $18,913.62.
All right.
Second.
All right, have a proper motion and second to approve our invoice payments for our fire, general, and police plan totaling $18,913.16. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, thank you. All right. It says there were ratification of our retirement payments. All right, and there were no new retirement benefit payments this quarter. Okay, that means we still have all our people here, right? No one is left. All right. It does state here.
Review and approval of the evaluations.
Okay, I got it. All right. Okay, item 6, review and approval of our 2025 valuations for our general and fire plans. Mr. Doug.
That's my cue.
Yes, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Very nice to see you. I have those 2 items, and then if you would entertain an additional item right after that, I'll bring that up after I cover the valuations, which should not take very long.
Okay.
And my apologies, I did get your agenda packet, but on my laptop, I just have the reports open. I'd like to start, I believe, first in your agenda packet is the general employees valuation. And specifically, I would like to start on the summary page. If you're in that report, the lower right hand shows Foster and Foster, and it would be page 5 of that. I don't know what page number would be in your 12. Very good. Thanks, Jeremy. Page 12. Should
Got
say
it.
summary
Yes, got
at the
it.
top. Okay. So I'll give you the cliff notes. You hire us as the actuary. We do all the heavy lifting. I give you the summary that makes the most sense to non-actuaries. Looking at the 2 columns on this page, it actually shows the city's contribution requirement is going to decrease in fiscal 26 compared to 25, and your funded status went up and improved. The city's requirement for the last fiscal year is the right-hand column, at $318,486. Budgeting for this year, and now we're 2/3 of the way through, it drops to $288,658. So it's about a $30,000 decrease. And that had to do with net favorable experience. On the asset side, I think you recall we use a 5-year smoothing, a 5-year average, and that came in higher than your 6.5%. The 5-year average was closer to 8, and we were assuming 6.5. So that was a nice favorable experience. There was a little bit of an offsetting loss, and that had to do, we call it salary increases. I've seen this around the state post-COVID. Cities they're competing with other cities, retention and recruitment, And so in this last year, there were larger than expected salary increases. And so there was a little bit of a loss there.
Okay.
And then finally, the other moving part is we had to change the mortality assumption. I think I brought this up last year. Whenever the Florida retirement system changes the life expectancy tables, we have to adopt it with all three pension plans. And that had a little bit of an increase. But you hire us as the actuary, when the dust settled, the city can put in $30,000 less this year than last year, and it'll still be actuarially sound. To that point, I'll give you an update on the funded status, and if you would, just go forward in the report. I believe it would be probably page 22 or so. There's a graph, and at the top, it's listed as history of funding progress. 10-year history. Graphs are easier to follow than numbers, I think.
Bar graph.
And if you found that, you can see that the funded status improved. You have now, again, cracked the 90%. You can see the 10-year history. You've always been very well funded. It fluctuates a little bit from year to year. You were above 90 in the COVID and the post-COVID year, and then there were some investment losses and you fell. But no big concern. You were still always in the 80s. Now we're back above 90. So your plan's in perfectly good shape. I don't have any recommendations for any changes going into next year.
Awesome.
So questions, comments on the general employees, I'm very happy to answer if you have any.
None.
Commissioner Lott, any questions? Have none.
Okay. I think maybe I'll cover fire, and then unless you prefer to approve this first, I can cover fire, and then you can approve both reports.
Yes. if you
Okay,
would,
let's
thank
go ahead with fire. I guess I'm going to bother Jeremy again to ask what page that might be. It would be the summary of the firefighters report. '51. A little bit of an opposite story here. It's good to have some interesting moving parts, so it's not all the same.
Questions?
If you're on that page, you can see there's actually an increase for the fire plan. Not as much as the decrease for general, so I guess that's good, but you can see that the city put in $48,174 last year, fiscal '25, and the requirement is $62,902 for this year. Now, the first thing I want to mention is, well, I know that probably it's not going to bust the budget, you know, an extra 14 grand, but if you look at the very bottom of this page, the city has overfunded the firefighters plan over the years. So there's actually almost $229,000 in the trust fund, more than was necessary. So you've got, like, you know, 4 times the annual requirement already reserved up. So the question is, okay, why the increase? I did notice there's fewer firefighters in the plan than last year. Now, we always do a snapshot, so it's on September 30th. When I was here a year ago, there were 20, now we're looking at 16, but I think, if I recall, you have at least 1 or 2 new full-time firefighters.
Yes.
And then on top of that, even the volunteers got a pay bump, even though it's quite variable. It's very volatile what, you know, a volunteer firefighter makes from one year to the next. But it looks like on average, everybody got a pretty big bump in pay. That has a lot to explain why the city's requirement went up about $14,000. You did have an actuarial gain in the plan. Your 5-year smoothing on assets came in at 7.64. We were assuming 6.5, so there was a nice gain there. But that was not enough to overcome the big salary, we call it the salary increase. And also with this plan, we had to adopt the mortality assumption, as with general and police when I was here at the prior meeting. That had a very minor impact. So update on the plan's funded status, if you would forward, I think 10 more pages in the report. A little more volatility here in the funded status. from one year to the next, but I've noticed that with the fire plan. That's just because of the volatility of, we never know from one year to the next what the volunteers might get for compensation, because you just never know how many calls they're gonna respond to and so on. But you can see the funded status, we had cracked 100% for a few years. It's fallen back. We're in the high 80s now. No concern whatsoever. It's all part of the way the plan operates. If we see an ongoing pattern regarding salaries, if it seems that there's more calls, more activity down the road, I might make some recommendation for assuming pay increases going higher in the future, but we'll just let this kind of stuff ride out, and I'm perfectly fine with the fire plan as well. You're well-funded, and it's stable. So that is my coverage. I told you I'd keep it painless as much as I could. For the valuation reports, there's two things we'll have to do at this point before I cover the final item, and then I'll get out of your way. You'll need to approve both valuation reports, and then we need to do something called the declaration of returns. So let's handle the first part, and then I'll guide you in the second.
Okay, all right. Item,
Make a motion?
yes.
Madam Vice Mayor, I move to accept the summary on page 12 for minimum required contribution of $288,658 for the general employees. And then on page 51 of the manual that we've been given, the summary for the firefighters for the period of 10/1/25 to 9/30/26, a minimum required contribution of $62,902.
All right, there is a proper motion. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a proper motion and second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries. All right, now the declaration.
Declaration of returns, it's an exercise. Every year when you approve the valuation report, we go through this. Both fire and general use the same assumption for investment return, that's 6.5% net of fees. So we recommend using that for this purpose. And I always guide my boards. I'll give you the language. Somebody just has to say so moved, and then a second. So here's the language.
Okay.
For the next year, the next several years, and the long term thereafter, the board expects a 6.5% net of fees investment return.
So moved.
Okay.
All right.
I'll second.
There's been a proper motion and a second. Any questions?
I do not.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
Beautiful. And then the final item, a couple months ago, back in April, our CEO sent a letter out, and I, to all our clients, so I assume you received it. I'm not sure if you read it, so that's why I'm here to fill in the details. It's regarding cybersecurity program. And I even passed out a sample report tonight. So here's the gist. We're down in Fort Myers, that's our headquarters, and our CEO, he's been there for 20 years. He likes to acquire actuarial firms around the country. And so recently, we acquired one that deals with the private sector, so-called Taft-Hartley plans. Don't know if you're familiar with that term, but it's a pension plan like the Fort Meade plans. It just deals with the private side, but they're employees, they're union employees primarily. And what we found out when we acquired that company is that they have a requirement from the government. So on our side, we have a three-letter branch of the government called the IRS that oversee, right? Well, the private side has a three-letter branch of the government. It's called DOL, Department of Labor. And what we found out is that the Department of Labor has been providing guidance in recent years regarding cybersecurity. In fact, to the point that they're mandating the private sector Taft-Hartley plans go through an exercise every year. And so when we looked at that, we said, well, why is this not being recommended to public sector pension plans? Now, understand it's not a requirement because the IRS oversees us, but we're wondering if it's just a matter of time. And so what this requirement is that every year, the pension board of trustees, as fiduciaries to the plan, have to have all of their vendors, anyone who's attached to the pension plan that has, anything that could potentially get at the assets. That would be your actuary, your plan administrator, any legal counsel that you use, investment consultant, and any money managers, including mutual funds, if you want to include them in this. They have to fill out a survey. Now, it's a non-intrusive survey. We know of a company that specializes in, we call it keeping the Department of Labor happy by making these Taft-Hartley plans go through this exercise. And the vendors fill out this survey. This company, and this is the sample report I put in front of you, it's called Fox Point Solutions. They put together a coding system. So for each vendor, after they receive the responses back, ideally you get all greens. But to the extent there's yellows or reds, that's where the risk is, where you would be talking to Fox Point in that case and saying, what do you recommend, Fox Point? Because we see that you've identified under DOL guidelines that there's a potential risk here, either moderate or severe. What recommendations do you have? And the purpose of this, we're recommending for on the public side, because we're not aware that anybody in the state has brought this to any plans yet except Foster & Foster, our company, is that you have millions of dollars at risk. And so think of this scenario. There's been a breach, and there's been some harmed retirees or even active members, some millions of dollars flowed out, and everybody's scrambling. It's kind of chaos. You're in a reactive mode. And you have some of those retirees coming, and they're very concerned. They've seen things in the news. They got word of this, and they'd be asking you as the trustees, the fiduciaries, what did you know about this vendor? How tight were they with respect to cybersecurity? And right now, I'm thinking you'd say, well, we don't know. And then you'd be in a reactive mode. I'm not suggesting that any of your vendors aren't completely buttoned up with respect to cybersecurity. I know we are as the actuary, SOC 2 compliant. We have to go through an exercise every year. But right now, all you have is verbal. You only have verbal from us as the actuary, from the administrator, your consultant. Everybody's attached to it. That's all it is verbal. And so you'd be in a very weak position in the case of a breach. In the event of a breach, but you've gone through this exercise, you would say, well, we did ask vendors this question. Now we're going to have a harder discussion, but we did do our job as fiduciaries. We went through this exercise. And so we understand now why the Department of Labor is doing this. We've seen in the news every day with the stories of AI. I know you very well up here have been dealing with this with the data center issue. So we know that AI is advancing, and we know that more and more plans are at risk. In fact, we handle hundreds of pension plans in the state. I was getting ready back in January to go and do exactly this, present a valuation report to the city of Cocoa, and I couldn't go. And any guesses why? They had a cyber breach, the city of Cocoa. They're still fixing it to this day. There's still problems. There was ransomware. So I don't mean to belabor this. I'm here to gauge the board's interest. If you would like to not necessarily go through this exercise every year, understanding it's voluntary, but we think it's prudent, we think it's a good idea to bring DOL guidance to the public sector. And if you so approve, then I'll move forward, get with Fox Point, have this report put together, and then have that distributed to the trustees, at which point you'd get a presentation from Fox Point to see if there's any weaknesses with any of your vendors.
Okay. Any questions?
No, I think it's a great idea.
Commissioner Lott, any questions? All right.
Do we need to make a motion on that?
Yes, so what is the will of the commission in regards to going through the exercise for the vendor assessment?
Do we need to do a formal motion or just, okay, so I move that we move forward in investigating the plan. I've worked for 2 companies that were held with ransomware. And and it's a very nasty situation. So I move that we look further into the plan and come back with a report. 60 days? 60 days.
I think that's probably reasonable. If it seems to extend longer than that, I'll reach out and let the board know.
Great.
Do we assume there's a cost associated with that?
There is.
I was gonna ask.
Yes.
So, yeah,
Sorry.
it is expensive, but I will tell you, it's the cheapest we could get. And I'll tell you the number in a second, but what the background to this is when we found out about this company, after we acquired the firm of Taft-Hartley Plans, we reached out to Fox Point and we said, we would like to pay you a bunch of money so you can give a group rate. So we can go to our clients around Florida and give them the best rate possible. So that we're not getting anything from Fox Point, we actually paid Fox Point in advance. All three plans, it's $5,000 each, so it'd be $15,000 total. That's the going rate for most single plans, but understanding you pretty much use about the same vendors for all three, but you are three separate entities, police, fire, general, so you will have three separate reports done. So the totality is $15,000.
Okay.
All right, well, what I would like for Mr. Bell, being that this is an item that has not been previously budgeted, for us to go back and look at our finances to ensure that if we do move forward, that we can cover the expense. So I'm definitely interested in participating. However, you know, I know we're kind of tight on things, so I would definitely want to ensure that there are funds available to cover the expense before we give them the go-ahead to move forward.
Are we anticipating that this is a cost to the pension or a cost to the city?
Both. We bill the pension boards, and it flows out of the trust funds, but the city reimburses in the following fiscal year.
Oh, in the following.
So if this helps
Okay.
with your understanding, the city would not need to reimburse for this until 26, 27, even if you paid it out today at this
Got it.
exact moment.
Oh, okay, well, that makes a lot more sense.
And with the savings on the other aspect of it.
Okay, all right,
So it's an item that we could budget for?
yes, yes,
right, going forward.
correct, all right.
So my motion would include that. It's essentially a blanket motion to move forward with the investigation of the program, and then make that decision in 60 days.
Okay, there's been a proper motion, is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a proper motion and second, any further discussion?
No.
No, all right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign, motion carries.
Very much appreciate your extra time for me to hog the microphone this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'll be here for the remainder. I don't think anything else will come up, but I'll be right down in front here.
All right.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we have done,
You're on item 8 now.
yeah, we're on item 8, all right. Oh, okay. Did we, item 8, the approval by the board to have the actuary prepare an analysis to move to FRS. That would be done?
Not too quick.
Yes.
There's nothing necessarily for me to add to that.
Okay.
I was part of a discussion where if the city's interested in seeing the cost or whatever you want to, going to Florida retirement system, I recommended that we run some studies, kind of side by side, and it would not be for police. Police is only retirees, so there's no transitioning retirees. But for fire in general, run cost projections. And it would be side by side, say if you do nothing, you don't go to FRS, here's what the city's costs look like for the next 20 years as a best guess, year over year for 20. Compare that side by side with, oh, if you close the plan off and let it just diminish, let it shrink, muster out, whatever you want to call it, and new hires go to Florida retirement system, we'll take a best guess as to what that looks like, and then you'd have a side-by-side.
Yeah.
We would have to do that. That would be my recommendation. Otherwise, you have no, it's like, well, we don't know what it would cost. That's, well, the actuary steps in and makes recommendations for 20-year projections. But because we work, this is the city inquiring, we work for the pension board trustees, so the board would have to give us permission to run those studies if and when the time comes.
Okay. All right, so what is the will of the body in regards to allowing them to run projections for us side by side?
Yeah, I move that we allow the projection preparation to move forward to see how the FRS system would affect our current situation.
Okay. There's been a proper motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a proper motion and a second to move forward to run projections of a side-by-side for a possible move to FRS. No further discussion?
No.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The motion does carry. All right.
Okay, I'll be on standby. I think Ms. Gloria here, and at some point we'll be directed, and I'll run those studies, and we'll take it from there, and I'll
Awesome.
get the reports done.
All right, thank you very
Okay.
much.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay. All right, item 9, quarterly investment report. Come on up.
Good evening, everybody. And I know we have a couple new commissioners, and so you probably don't recognize me. I'm Jeremy Langley with the League of Cities, and we actually do the pension administration for you all, which is also inclusive of your investments. So we're actually the ones that do handle all of the plan's assets. They're commingled with a couple billion in assets, so I can assure you that cybersecurity is of the utmost importance to us. And hopefully you all are already somewhat familiar with the League of Cities and the services we provide, and hopefully you're pleased with our efforts to help local government as best we can. I do want to ask one thing, and certainly you can help me out, Doug. I don't want to push back too much, but we do run all three plans individually. So if they just were to look at one plan, that's 5,000 versus 3, because you're going to get the same exact answer presumably for all three plans as you would one plan. As it relates to the assets, I don't.
Yeah, we do recognize that, but the Department of Labor, we're just bringing their guide, even though it's not required on the public side. Each individual pension board, police, fire, general, you're separate entities. Even though you use the same vendors, you should have your report done, and you separately can ask your own questions. That's,
Okay.
but it is the lowest rate that we came up with. We're just passing along the lowest that Fox Point can give us.
Okay, understood. Understood.
Okay, so just as far as investments go, I know you all are probably pushing into your next meeting pretty soon, so I'll go a little quicker than typical. Usually I'll go, unless you want me to, usually I'll go through the dollars a little bit before I go into the investments, but for time's sake, unless you tell me otherwise, I'll just comment on the investment part. Although I'd actually, since it's the March 31st quarter end, I'd rather not. Unfortunately, it was a difficult quarter in the market, although really and truly it was a difficult March, into February and March. The January was actually a fantastic month. February was pretty good as well. And then I'm sure, as everybody's aware, we had this little old conflict with Iran pop up at the end of February. And it's created a lot of market volatility, and in short run, following the start of that conflict, there was a pretty good market sell-off, which of course took us through March 31st, quarter end. So the fund was actually down about 1.68%, excuse me, for the March quarter, which put us down about 0.5% fiscal year to date. I'm very glad, though, that we're meeting now. As I can actually tell you, as we sit here today, June 9th, I believe, things have really, really swung around. So even though this report doesn't look good, the market has proven to be extraordinarily resilient. The month of April was actually an absolutely huge month, very strong returns. May was good as well. As a matter of fact, at the end of Thursday of last week, we were pretty much all the major indexes were right around or at all-time highs. So not only had we bounced back from, we were sitting at highs essentially right up until the conflict started, we've not only gotten to that point, but actually surged well on past. So things have really turned around, which is fantastic news. There was a little bit of a sell-off Friday, kind of bounced back yesterday, and then today was all over the map, closed down a little bit, being down big at one point earlier in the day. So a little off those highs of Thursday, but again, a much different picture than how we met, you know, maybe a month or so back. I will say, even though it is great news, and with 3 weeks to go in this quarter, I'm hopeful that next time we meet, you'll get to see a very good investment report, but I'm certainly not going to predict what's going to happen in the next 3 weeks. Mostly because even though things have turned around, I will tell you there's still a lot of headwinds out there, right? Oil still, it's come down from the highs, but still elevated. Inflation never has gotten down to the 2% Fed target. It continues to stay sticky, and with everything that's going on with the oil prices, all of that, that's created some inflationary concerns. At the beginning of this year, the Fed or most people was expecting probably 2 rate cuts at least from the Fed this year. That's turned around to the point that there's now chatter we might even possibly see a rate increase before the end of the year. Certainly, again, I think it's very much just kind of a question mark. And so all that to say, there's a lot of volatility still at play. There's a lot of potential headwinds out there, but somehow, some way, the market just has continued to plug along. I would say very conservatively, we're probably up 3-4%. I think probably even higher than that as we sit today, and I'll certainly highlight that. But I'm very hopeful and expect to give you all a much better report on assets when we meet again at the end of June, the June report when we meet again, I guess, in September.
Yes. Yes.
So again, that's a really quick overview. Certainly, if you have any questions or anything you'd like for me to dig in a little deeper, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Any questions?
No, fine, thank you.
No questions.
Okay. All right, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy. All right. Plan administrator comments at this time.
I guess that would still be me. I don't have anything additional.
No, okay, awesome. Any comments from any members of the trustee?
No.
All right. No. All right. I have none. Any public comments at this time on our pension? All right. No public comments at this time. Moving on to item 13, our next scheduled meeting will be September 8th, 2026. Any additional comments from member of the board?
No, thank you, I'm fine.
All right. If none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
I move that we adjourn the pension meeting.
There's been a proper motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.